Let's get started. Why study for your midterms? In SMF 204, the reality is there is a large amount of course content in a very short amount of time. The midterm questions from the course content will not always look exactly the way the content was originally presented. Memorization of your course material in such a short period of time cannot be your only approach to studying. There is simply too much course content for your memory capacity. Want to study for success? Find ways to relate details back to larger concepts or examples, identify relationships between ideas, and be able to explain concepts in your own words. How can you do this, you ask? Great question! Let's take a look at Bloom's taxonomy of learning for help. Many professors use Bloom's taxonomy of learning to create midterm and exam questions to make sure that you're not just memorizing the material, but you're actually critically thinking about it. The bottom and most basic level of Bloom's taxonomy of learning is being able to remember facts. The next level up is understanding those facts. What do they mean? What do they tell you? The next level up is being able to apply the information. Can you apply the fact, the rule, the concept, or the idea? The next level up is being able to analyze information. Can you break down the information into its component parts? Can you teach it to someone else? The next level up is being able to evaluate the material. Can you judge the value of the information or the ideas? The top level of Bloom's taxonomy of learning is being able to combine parts of what you know to make something new. Let's look at some examples. The bottom and most basic level of learning is being able to remember. The ability to recognize and recall facts. For example, in a test, you might be asked, what are the 4 muscles that make up the quadriceps group? Or, like the example question shown here, the condition in which the foreskin does not retract from the glands is known as blank. In this remember level question, you've been asked to recall a definition. Let's look at another example, but this time looking at the next level of Bloom's taxonomy, understanding. Understanding is the ability to interpret information and understand the message being conveyed. An example of an understanding level question might ask you to describe or explain something, like describe the process of mitosis. Or you might get asked a question like the one shown here. A transsexual is a person who failed to acquire the concepts of gender stability and gender constancy as a child. The psychologist who made this statement subscribes to the blank perspective of gender identity and role development. In this understanding level question, you've been given an example of a concept to test your understanding. Next, let's look at an example from the next level of Bloom's taxonomy, the application. Being asked to apply what you know to a new situation. An example of an application question might give you a situation or scenario like shown in this example. If a fetus with an XY chromosomal structure did not produce testosterone, which of the following would happen? In this type of question, you are being asked to use what you have learned. Next, let's look at an example that is testing the next level of Bloom's taxonomy. Analysis. Being able to analyze is the ability to break down information into smaller parts, or breaking information up into its components. It is being able to recognize patterns and identifying how they are related to each other. Let's look at an example multiple choice question that you might see on your SMF midterm. Sexual Sesame Street. One of these things doesn't belong. Which one of the following methods works differently than the others? In this question, you're being asked to compare the characteristics of different concepts. Let's look at one last example at the analysis level of Bloom's taxonomy. Imagine that I give students one description of BDSM that is either framed positively or negatively. After reading the description, I asked participants to answer questions such as, I think people who practice BDSM are perverted, and I would enjoy seeing a film depicting BDSM. Participants also completed a measure of erectophilia to ensure that this did not have an impact on their ratings of BDSM. 4 possible midterm questions that could come from this description. 1. This research is best described as blank. 2. The dependent measure in the study described above was blank. 3. The independent measure in the study described above was blank. And 4. The control variable in the study described above was blank. In this type of analyze question, you are being tested on how well you understand the relationship between concepts.